Sarah Boone testified in court earlier this month in an attempt to have her interrogation at the police station thrown out. It went badly. Sarah Boone's version of events did not make sense with either the prosecution or defense's argument, in my opinion. The judge, afterwards in his decision, mentioned how Sarah Boone's explanation of events couldn't possibly have happened based on the sheer time, but also she is unreliable in what she is saying. Sarah Boone would get tripped up with very basic questions to the point at one point her lawyer interjected, in my opinion, just to give her more time to try to come up with an answer. And the problems from that continue. This is a notice of supplemental discovery. They are using the transcript of her testifying in court against her. I have to imagine her lawyer warned this with a possibility, maybe an inevitability, but I believe Sarah Boone will be absolutely enraged when she finds out about this, especially because her testimony did not work. The interrogation stayed in. Now, with that being said, there is a lot in this Sarah Boone case. We've gone through a lot, and we have forgotten a lot. And a lot of little things that, we might have forgotten. For example, I know someone who just recently binge-watched a bunch of Sarah Boone content. Not mine, someone else's, but they binge-watched it. And they brought up a question. Sarah Boone is using battered spouse, and when she appeared in court about this, there was talk of the cell phone and coaching, trying to have charges dropped for George, and the prosecution mentioned that on the phone, Sarah was trying to coach him to have charges dropped that were against her. And they asked a very basic question. So if there were charges going both ways, how do they compare? How is it going to look to a jury? Because remember, the jury is going to get as much information as they can give them in a very short amount of time, and it's going to stick with them. Well, I looked up George, and it appears to be misdemeanors. Maybe I've missed it, just misdemeanor domestic violence, essentially. Sarah, on the other hand, felony battery by strangulation. So when Sarah Boone, if you've watched my latest videos, her newest story is that when George complained he couldn't breathe, she got enraged thinking back to him keeping her from breathing. She also hit his fingers with a baseball bat. But, as far as I can tell, between the two, the only one charged for strangulation is Sarah. How interesting. And if this is brought up in court, I have to imagine, whether on purpose or not, maybe subconsciously, this will stick with jury members. He couldn't breathe. Sarah Boone has a history. And really, it got me thinking about there's so much with Sarah Boone for you and me, and I think most people watching this case, that makes her unlikable. And maybe some of that unlikability will not get shown to the jury. I'm sure some of her letters will, I would have to think, and some of them, because she talks about her story a little bit in some of them. But they won't get the full force of Sarah. But what they do get is condensed. There are moments with Sarah Boone that we as viewers, even the people that religiously tune in and check out her court documents and what's happening, that you forget or you misremember because so much time has passed. The jury isn't going to have that. The jury is going to be presented to them quickly. And I went through again. Very brief overview, just looking through some of my older Sarah Boone stuff, other people's older Sarah Boone stuff people I hadn't watched covering Sarah Boone before. And I'm just sitting here wondering, how can a jury ever side with her? I can't imagine it, personally. And then I go to social media, and I've never done that, actually. I'm going to be honest. I've never gone on Twitter and searched Sarah Boone. And what I find is people talking about how she should have taken the deal. And now, no matter the delays, because they're still coming, we're getting close to the end of this thing. We're getting to the point where we're going to finally get to find out what the decisions are. Now, for anyone that didn't know, just in case you missed the last video, there is a delay. Jury selections moved till the 14th because of the hurricane. And personally, what am I wondering? I'm honestly wondering if we'll get a Sarah Boone handwritten letter complaining about the hurricane delay. Or if we'll get an update from the jail where she does something. Because they were keeping notes from her in jail when she refused to shower, refused breakfast, yelled at her lawyer, refused her laptop, that type of thing. We have those documents on the docket. And even though you would probably expect during a hurricane, during a delay, there's probably not going to be much more filed. I mean, this was. So I'm going to keep watching. I'm going to keep checking. Multiple times a day, I check the Sarah Boone page. I try to make a video as soon as I can. If there's a delay, it's because I know there's going to be another document and it just hasn't been posted yet, and I'm waiting for that generally. I do try to be as quick as possible with this stuff, but I'm going to try to also get things done in the next few days. I'm not in the hurricane path. You don't have to worry about that. But I get the feeling that my channel covers this, it covers a bunch of political stuff, news, stuff like that. It is a busy time. So I'm going to be trying to get a bunch of stuff done. And just so you're aware, I might be a little late on some Sarah Boone stuff. If something gets posted at 8:30 p.m. on a random Thursday, I might not think to check until Friday. But I do plan to keep covering. I do plan to watch as much as I can. It feels wild. We're like getting possibly near the end. And I do wonder if this delay is going to have Sarah Boone sit back, possibly, and ask if that plea deal's still on the table. Especially when she sees this. This behind me might be the final thing to scare Sarah Boone into a deal. But personally, I don't think her ego can take a deal.